All right, thank everyone for being here today for our April 15th Transportation Policy Board. This is a special called meeting, so we're going to be limited on some of the things we'll address in this meeting. As soon as this meeting's over, we'll move right into our next. So don't get up out of your seat because you're part of the regional council as well. And we'll move right off into that today. So we're just going to call things to order and look for approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion and a second. Any comments on the minutes? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Next up is our public comment section, and we'll open the floor to anyone who wishes to make a comment to the Transportation Policy Board. I know that there's been one sent in via email. Are there any other public comment that needs to be taken care of? Daniel, you want me to read the comment? This was sent in via email by a Cynthia Willett. Please consider in the transportation policy that eliminating housing and businesses to install choice lanes exacerbates another urgent need in Nashville and most likely pushes more people driving farther and paying less taxes to Davidson County, not to mention driver rage over the lane closures during construction. It seems if bus transportation were extended to the counties with more frequency, we could get more people in and out of Nashville on a regular basis without the additional cost and frustration of tearing down houses and businesses in construction. Thank you for making my comments heard. That was sent in via email. Is there any other person wishing to make a public comment at this time? Seeing none, we're going to move off into our action items. First up is adopting the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. I'm going to ask Daniel if he would present the proposed adoption.
All right, thank you, Chair Callis. I got the slides. Thank you. So today I will go over the plan, really focusing on what the federal requirements are, the forecasts and recommendations. This is the context of the plan as we are in the results that we got today, the upcoming activities and requests for adoption of our 2050 RTP. In the April 1st TCC meeting, we went into a much deeper dive on kind of the history of how we've been working on this plan, the steps and timeline, the regional goals and policy framework that led to the prioritization and the evaluation scoring process. But you all have seen that there have been several of the presentations kind of with that material. But in the interest of keeping it relevant to what the outcomes are, we're going to be focusing on the other items here. So again, you've seen this slide as well, the federal requirements. This long-range plan is a federal requirement by law for MPO areas. It has to require 20 years. We historically have done 25 years, so that's what this plan covers to 2050. All federally funded and regionally significant projects should be included in the plan, regardless of implementing agency. We are fiscally constrained, so there's a balanced budget on it, forecasting reasonable assumptions on what the revenues will be in the region through 2050. And there are some federal requirements addressing planning factors and performance-based planning requirements. We are in the 5-year cycle where it has to be updated every 5 years. So a quick recap of the last plan, which we are at the tail end of, the 2045 plan. This was adopted in February of 2021. And I want you to focus on the $10.5 billion. That prioritized $10.5 billion of funding throughout the 25-year period from 2021 to 2045. And kind of created a great framework that we've been working under for a lot of the policies and infrastructure planning that we've been doing over the last 5 years. I will add a note that once that plan was adopted, pretty much the team here at the MPO got to work with new data collection, improving our transportation modeling. And there have been iterations of work all the way through since that plan. So the results are the 2050 RTP forecasts. To give you growth and traffic forecasts, we use the 2023 base year for existing conditions, and then extrapolate those out to the 2030, 40, and 50 planning horizons. And what we see is as you would expect, major growth, 40% increase in population, 64% increase in employment, and a 29% increase in vehicle miles traveled. That's 18 million more miles per day traveled within the region. And of course, that directly affects the last bullet point there, which is a 38% increase in vehicle hours traveled per capita. So that's 25 minutes more per person per day that we will be likely in our automobiles. The revenue forecasts, this is a slightly different base year. One note, I want to mention that the dashboards for this, you can go into super deep dive. All the dashboards, interactive mapping is available online through our RTP webpage on this for the forecast. Revenue forecast. This is a 2025 base year of financial planning, and note that moves forward a couple of years because we have the most recent information for this. This is we kind of consider it a 2% growth per year that aligns with the last 10 years of history, and that's our best estimate on that. What we do is we estimate what we have. We know what we have for carryover funding. That's funds that have not been obligated yet from the previous cycle. And then we add the formula funding that we get. And that's just an automatic, this is the federal funding that the region gets historically, assuming that's going to be similar with a 2% growth. And taking that out 25 years, those first two bullet points, you reach the 17 billion. What we have existing plus the federal formula grants and matching funds through 2050. Then you add in the 2.6 billion in federal discretionary funds. These are things like the FHWA's build grant, FTA's New Start program. We anticipate being competitive and certain things like the Choose How You Move program or the TMA have made us more competitive because we have more money to match those programs. So we hope that's a low number, but we estimate that out at 2.6 billion. And then 12.6 billion in additional state and local funds. Again, the P3 and the Choose How You Move tax revenue, things like that. So all of that together, remember what I said, make note of that last plan was a $10.5 billion plan. This plan is a $31 billion plan in estimated revenue. So that's a good thing. It's showing that we have not only growth that we need to tackle, but growth in our projected revenue in the area as well. Maybe not enough, but it's a sign that things are moving in the right direction. So we move to the RTP recommendations. And this is kind of a framework for how these recommendations work. We have two components in the plan as far as your actual projects go. We have our fiscally constrained list, which is required by federal regulations, and we have our illustrative priorities. We see both as very meaningful and important. The fiscally constrained is what is in process now or ranks very highly on the priority list to make it easy to get into the TIP. But that doesn't mean that the illustrative priorities are not a priority for the region. They are regionally significant projects that you all and we have determined to bring into this plan. So the illustrative list is there to demonstrate what the funding need is. when we go to our legislative bodies and look for funding to help bring those into the fiscally constrained. The recommendations are a prioritization of estimated funding revenue. So they're not a specific grant award, and I'll talk a little bit more about how to bring those into the tip at the end of this. But they are not a grant award made by GNRC, TDOT, or USDOT. They are a representation of our priorities and how the region thinks that this money should be used as it comes available. And then just as noted, capacity projects must be included in the fiscally constrained list to be programmed in the TIP. And then we'll make adjustments to the regional transportation plan as new money comes available, grant awards, funding commitments. This is a living document. We'll bring in amendments to the RTP. And I think I mentioned already that the illustrative priorities communicate that. They tell a story about what the needs are in the region. And I want to note that the project lists and the funding recommendations were shown at the last meeting here, so I'm not going to do too much of a deep dive into that. Again, they're also available at the website. So here's a high level kind of groups of our funding recommendations. Programmatic set-asides. This is one of the innovative things we do at the MPO for safety, transit, multimodal technology, air quality, operations and maintenance. We have buckets of set-asides that are directed to those sometimes smaller scale or ongoing projects and are allocated as needed through those. Bulk of that is statewide groupings for highway maintenance, safety, transit formula funding, et cetera. 5-star projects. We have regionally ideated projects that are high significance. These are full corridors, but the inner loop, things like that we know should be priorities for the region to address. That's 12.7 in total, and you'll notice a $9.9 billion non-federal. That includes the P3 funds for the I-24 choice lanes, things like that, as a large scale 5-star project. So then we have our other TDOT capacity and operational improvements at $1.6 billion, and other local capacity and operational improvements at 10.7, and these are the ones that maybe a local agency is sponsoring that's regionally significant. GNRC has taken under a nominal placeholder in our name for major projects that are not in the 10-year list that go beyond that horizon, and those are included in this group. And again, a note that the link down there, the interactive map and the project lists are on our RTP webpage. Finally, a big piece of the plan are our other policy planning recommendations. The 6 regional, more than 35 distinct regional strategies, the 6 regional goals that we've talked a lot about leading up to this to help us prioritize the plan related to things like safety, congestion, economic development, et cetera, are outlined in the plan. We have 7 planning related recommendations. Things like completing a safety action plan for the entirety of the region, or a recommendation to assess growth management strategies as far as land development goes and how they contribute to transportation goals. Policies that guide the programming of funds into our short-term program, such as how to deal with inactive projects or cost overruns, things like that. Progress tracking, meeting our performance goals, and environmental impact mitigation or avoidance strategies. So what's next? The first part is kind of what have we been doing as this was out for public comment. We've fine-tuned the narrative, data points, project descriptions, leaving the really significant pieces alone. We haven't amended funding allocations or anything like that during the public comment period. verified availability of non-federal funds. Thank you to TDOT for kind of being with us there along through this process, as they're a huge part of the non-federal fund piece, to make them comfortable with what's shown there. And then below you can see the bullet points. Here's what we'll do after. When we adopt it, we'll package that and submit that to TDOT to go and on to their and our federal partner certification review to make sure it complies with regulations. We're going to amend the RTP as soon as we're finished here. This is, like I said earlier, this is a living document. We already know that the new 10-year plan is wrapping up, and we'll may need to incorporate some new RTP projects into that. And as funding becomes available for projects that may not be in the fiscally constrained list, this is an ongoing process where we're bringing in for local or TDOT projects. And then finally, we'll issue a call for projects to identify new programming needs for the TIP. So brief reminder on that, at TDOT's request, we adopted a new 26 to 2029 TIP in the fall. And basically what we did for that, because we didn't have the framework of the RTP, is carried over all projects from 2026 and everything we knew, and any added projects that we knew TDOT was wanting to add. This is the chance, as we adopt this, we'll now have that framework in place to pull in projects and recognize new funding for the rest of the timeline of the short-term plan. So we'll immediately get to work on making sure that your projects are represented, and having a call for projects to inform that. So with that, we are requesting the adoption of our major update to the Regional Transportation Plan. I'll note that the resolution that is in your packet references the compliance reviews necessary, and that it may be amended to incorporate revisions that we need to do, anticipated funding, or changing regional priorities. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, any questions for Daniel on this update? Dealing with the Regional Transportation Plan. So we'll need to hold a public hearing on that. Anyone wishing to speak on TBB 2026-05, update to the Regional Transportation Plan? Seeing none, I look for a motion to get on the floor. Do we have a motion? Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So first of all, let me say, appreciate everyone that had an opportunity. Thank you to TDOT, local communities who had an opportunity to get together and talk about some of the things we're going to be discussing here today, for that time and getting that together. And hopefully we're able to kind of settle some of the fears dealing with the projects, especially if we've moved to a 10-year fiscally constrained TDOT plan. As Daniel was mentioning, as more funding is available, more projects can come into it. I don't know if it's been announced yet or not. I assume the governor will be looking to probably do an amendment of increased funding of some portion as they get ready to finalize the budget. So I don't know if that's been done yet or not. So if that happens, maybe some more projects will get put in there. Do we have any discussions over the Regional Transportation Plan before we move on a vote? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you.
For the record, TDOT will abstain from the vote just because we have not reviewed it.
Okay, all right. Make a notation of that, please. Thank you for that, Matt. Next item, we're going to deal with amending the Transportation Improvement Program, and we'll turn it over to Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This next item is action that was deferred from your March Transportation Policy Board meeting, largely due to the fact that we were requested by the state to remove certain projects from the Transportation Improvement Program that had been programmed in the prior TIP, which is actually still the current TIP, which is the 23 to 26 TIP. Those projects were unobligated through the life of that TIP, so they carried forward into the new TIP that was adopted in November. That's the 2630, 2629 tip that was adopted. The amendment that is on the table today, deferred from March, is essentially amending both of those programs. It is important to note that the new tip will not become effective until the state's transportation improvement program is served by federal highway. So in this moment of time, we're sort of having to maintain both databases to make sure that the 2026 year is reconciled between the two programs. So that's why you see reference to both programs in the resolution. Also, before I give the update from staff, I'll acknowledge that the resolution number that was presented in March was the 2026-05 resolution. That's the number we just used for the adoption of the regional transportation plan. Is it important that that action took place first, as these amendments will be enacted following the adoption of the plan? So we repurposed that number, assigned a new number to this resolution, but otherwise it is the same resolution. There is some text changes in that resolution, namely, if you look at the document, we've changed those projects that are being removed at the request of TDOT that aren't yet completed. It's not housekeeping. It's just sort of awaiting funds to get these projects moving forward, or projects that are being incorporated into other projects that are under development. We changed the language in the body of the resolution to defer, but the details of what's happening to those individual projects are described in the exhibit to the resolution, which is incorporated into the resolution to guide the future of those projects. And what we found in conversations with TDOT is that there are a handful of projects in the I-65 corridor. They're essentially being deferred until we get through the PEL, that's the Planning Environmental Linkages Study, that's advanced planning and environmental work in anticipation of a P3 project in the corridor. Some of these interchange projects will just be folded into the design implementation of that project. And then there are other projects that are being integrated into other projects across the region, or other projects that are just simply because the new fiscally constrained 10-year plan, the state's not in a position to continue their financial commitment in the short term. There's still a priority for TDOT, still a priority for the region. And you'll note those on the project tip sheets that they're just simply waiting for funds that may not be available by the end of fiscal year 2029. Of course, things change. We adopt a state budget every year. Congress takes action occasionally when it comes to transportation funding. So if we receive more funding as a state or as a region than we're anticipating, it's very likely first in line for those funds would be projects that are being removed for the TIP and just simply awaiting funds. I'll note on the screen, and I might have to go to Matthew for any detailed questions that you might have. We also wanted to acknowledge the NEVI, the travel congestion and clean air improvement project. There may have been some slight tweaks in the scoping of that project since the last presentation.
Yeah, at a high level, there were 7 EV charging locations identified and awarded. But as the SCDOT was moving forward to, I believe, to contract with those 7 recipients, one of them backed off. So the one EV charger that was in Rutherford County is being removed from the project scope.
Thank you, Matthew. So to recap, the March TIP amendments, the changes since what was presented in March is what Matthew just mentioned about the first project on that table. And then all of the projects with highlighted in red are those projects where we've shifted the language from remove to defer and provided additional detail in the project pages that are attached as an exhibit to give everybody a comfort level that these are still priorities of moving forward as soon as money comes available, or as soon as planning processes continue to advance engineering, design, and construction plans for those projects. Mr. Chair, we will need to hold a public hearing for consideration of these amendments, but I'll turn it over to you for discussion.
Any questions for Michael? Make sure everybody's clear on the explanation there. Mayor?
I feel a little odd asking this question because I was the one that was bothered by the remove. But according to Robert's Rules of Order, if you defer an item, it requires a date specific to reconsider it. So I'm okay with remove, particularly with the language that is in each one that talks about awaiting funding, which after the public hearing, I think I would like to make a motion that we put back the remove, but with the minutes showing that under each project, there is clarification that they're all awaiting awaiting funding.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's move to a public hearing first, and then we'll take up that amendment. Anyone wishing to speak on resolution amending the Transportation Improvement Program for federal fiscal years 2023 through 2026 and 2026 through 2030? Seeing none, let's bring this item to the floor. Do I have a motion to bring resolution TBB 2026-06 on the floor? Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And so we had a proposed amendment put on the floor to look at the language of the resolution. All the projects where it says defer, we will simply put remove there. Inside each description, it tells you that they're awaiting funding. So when you go into the actual body of the language, it says awaiting funding. And so, Mayor, does that accurately describe your amendment?
Accurately described.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor to amend resolution 2026-06. Do I have a second on the amendment? Oh, I heard a second. I'm sorry, Mayor Butt. Any discussion on the amendment only?
I have one question on
Yes.
the amendment as it relates to State Route US 31A, Nolensville Road as it sits in Davidson County. So that one is listed under the resolution as deferred the project, but the description says that it's because it's outside the TIP timeframe and that the funding is coming from somewhere else. So does that fit within what you're describing to now say removed as opposed to defer?
But I think the point I'm trying to make is that the description of the projects accurately reflect where those projects are and what's happening to those projects now and in the future.
So as long as that's in the minutes, you think that that's,
And the description of the amendment, yes.
Specifically to her question on the project itself, would you give some?
The resolution is amending the Transportation Improvement Program, and whether we use remove or defer, the projects are being removed from the program. They may come back later through an amendment if funding becomes available, or they may be considered for the next program that would be adopted in a couple of years. But either way, the projects are being removed as described in the exhibit. I think the language around deferral was just a recognition that we're not removing these from our vision. We're just deferring them into the future beyond the horizon of the specific transportation improvement program until funding is available, or some of these projects get through the planning process and their design and construction is known.
Daniel, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that one in particular, between the March meeting and now got awarded into the 10-year plan for TDOT. So it is funded, but I believe the first year of funding is in 2030, which falls outside this TIP. So it still exists as a project. We got the notice that it was funded, but either way, it would not exist in this TIP because that doesn't start till 2030. If somehow it gets moved forward, it's available to bring back into the TIP.
That brings some clarity on that project.
our staff is also working to talk about this specific project.
Thank you. Mayor O'Connell.
Mr. Chair, Skipper, I guess I'll ask just for the board. Is Mayor Moore's amendment consistent with a reasonable, I guess, no objection from staff on the amendment?
No, sir. There's no practical difference in the language from our point of view. So we're good with that. If the board wanted to suspend Robert rules, they could, but I don't think it's important enough for debate.
And then I guess I'd ask Matt on behalf of TDOT. Most of these are TDOT sponsored, so also would ask you the same thing. Y'all are good.
Any other comments? I'm sorry,
I just want
Matt.
to add, this might throw in a little bit, and I'm really hesitant to even suggest it, but as you all
Always
know.
dangerous. As soon as you said, we were almost there, Matt. I mean, I can see the finish line and now it's outside the building, but go ahead.
It's more about.
Save it for after the vote, Matt.
It'll be
I'd like to hear it now.
No, it's just, I wanted to clarify that these are for the 26, 29 amendments, correct? The draft tip. Yes,
They're
Or is
both,
it both?
these
Okay.
projects are in
Then-
both tips.
So we'll stop right there because I'll just make it more complicated.
The resolution references both tips. And that's just the unfortunate situation we're in with two overlapping tips currently.
Any other comments on the proposed amendment? We're voting on the amendment only. And the amendment is to look at your resolution TPP 2026-06, where it says defer, we're going to use the word remove. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Now we're going to go vote on TPP 2026-06 as amended. Any discussion on this resolution before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, thank you for that. Next up, we will go to Resolution 2026-07. And so I'm going to turn that over to Matthew Cushing, if you would do some explanation for that.
Thank you. So you're not quite done with TIP amendments yet. So what we just talked about were the amendments we discussed in March. There is a small group of new amendments to the TIP that you have not reviewed as a board as of yet. I'll say there's 4 screen, but they are all part of the same action, generally speaking. So the purpose of this series of amendments is to add funds to the City of Murfreesboro Cherry Lane Extension with I-40 Interchange Project. So essentially, we're moving funds from the 3 projects you see at the top of the list down to the Cherry Lane project. There are 2 buckets of funding that we're moving. So we are moving MSTBG, so that's Surface Transportation Block Grant funding sub-allocated to the Murfreesboro urbanized area. And we are also moving NHPP, so that is National Highway Performance Program that the TDOT usually administers there. We are moving both of these to the project. I will comment on the MSTBG. We have reached out to Rutherford County, one of the other eligible communities that has access to the MSTBG to let them know about this, talk about this. There were no concerns voiced. On the MSTBG, we're moving $4 million in federal funding from the Regional Transit and Technology Program and $1.6 million from the Active Transportation Program. So these are some of our programmatic set-asides that we've discussed as part of the TIP. These are regional programs. It is not unheard of to move at the end of the TIP period some of these funds to projects that are ready to obligate those funds. So at this point, we're essentially moving all unprogrammed MSTBG funds to the Cherry Lane project. Additionally, like I said, there's the $11.6 million in NHPP funds that are coming from TDOT's NHPP grouping. One other comment, you will likely see more amendments on this project in future cycles. This is a large, complicated project with many phases. So in future cycles, you may see us breaking this into separate projects and discussing other funding strategies. But today, we're simply addressing those moving of funds to allow the project to keep moving in a timely manner. I'll open the floor to any questions on that.
Questions for Matthew? All right, seeing none, we need to hold a public hearing. So Resolution TBB 2026-07, April cycle. Do we have anyone wishing to speak on this resolution? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve. Have a motion. Do I have a second? Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on these amendments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Hey, listen, thank you for your time. Don't go anywhere. We're fixing to change here just in a moment. Do want to bring one piece just as a reminder. Our chair of the task force, Jim Kerr, is going to be sending out an email. We're going to be setting up a meeting for our next task force meeting. So if you're on that, be looking for that. Also, we're going to be having a changing of the guard for the Transportation Policy Board. So Mayor O'Connell will be stepping in his chair. We'll have Spring Hill Mayor be stepping in his vice chair. And so we got through all the hard stuff. The next ones are going to be easy. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
yeah. So we're looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. We're fixing to have a quick meeting.
Well done.
If you're here representing a community in the regional council
I'll
footprint,
see the light.
I want to give her a hard time because I like